Thank you, everyone, for sticking around for the last talk of the day. We're going to be talking about what's new in Godot XR, so virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, all of the reality except real reality. We're going to be giving a bunch of live demos as well. What can go wrong? At this bit.ly URL and this QR code, you can get these slides. We have a whole bunch of links throughout the presentation, so you can use that to get to them. It will be especially important during the live demos because you will be seeing what's happening on the headset, but not the slides. And on the slides, there's links to the actual demos if you want to try them and documentation on the features they're showing. So I'll give you another 10 seconds to get it if you want it. All right. I am David Snopek. I am a Godot maintainer on the XR and GD extension teams. I am the maintainer and original creator of Godot's WebXR support. I very recently became an individual contributor on the OpenXR working group, so that's the group that created and maintains the OpenXR specification. I work for W4 Games, and I make my own little silly games and tutorials, which you can find out more about at snopekgames.com.
Hi, everybody. I'm Fredia, Huya-Kouadio, or everybody call me Freddie. I'm the Godot lead Android maintainer. I've been doing so since about 2018. But I'm also a maintainer of the XR team, more specifically focused on Meta set of device. I'm a maintainer, creator of the Godot Android editor, and maintainer of the Godot Android editor and the Godot XR editor. The Godot Android editor was released about a year ago. The Godot XR editor was released about 2 weeks ago. And thank you. And I work for Meta.
All right, this is Bastiano Lee, who unfortunately couldn't be with us here today, but he will be joining in the presentation through the power and magic of video. Bastian is the lead XR maintainer. He is responsible for the original VR implementation in Godot. He is a contractor and board member of the Godot Foundation, and also an individual contributor on the OpenXR working group, and makes lots of cool Godot XR content on his YouTube channel. So something that I hear very commonly from game developers is, wait, I didn't know that Godot could do VR. In fact, Godot's VR support is not new. At this point, it is getting quite mature. It was originally merged into Godot in 2017 and released with Godot 3.0 in 2018. In the early days of VR, every vendor had their own SDK. If you wanted to release on Steam, you'd need to use the OpenVR SDK. For Oculus Rift, you need to use the Oculus SDK. For Oculus Quest, you need to use a totally different SDK, the OVR Mobile SDK, and so on. And Godot has or has had support for almost all of the VR and AR SDKs. To deal with this problem of so many SDKs, OpenXR was created. It's a cross-platform open standard for VR and AR. It's supported by many, many vendors: Steam, Meta, Vive, Pico, Magic Leap, HoloLens, pretty much everyone except for Apple. It's maintained by the Kronos Group with membership from all of these supporting organizations. So it's all of these vendors together collaborating to create this open standard. Godot 3 had a OpenXR GD native plugin since 2019. And in 2022, support for OpenXR was merged into Godot 4 itself. So we have native OpenXR support built right into Godot, originally just for Windows and Linux. And shortly after, Android support was added. OpenXR was kind of slow in standardizing Android support. There were some parts that weren't totally figured out, in particular, how to actually load the OpenXR SDK. So in the very beginning, before it was managed to be fully standardized, each of the vendors had their own separate OpenXR loaders, which led to the creation of the Godot OpenXR Loaders plugin, which you would need to use to pull in all these third-party loaders. Later, we renamed it to the Godot OpenXR Vendors plugin because we've started to add vendor-specific OpenXR extensions. So OpenXR, there's kind of a core of it, which is vendor neutral, supported on all of the headsets. But then when a vendor makes some feature that's just for their headset, they usually expose that to developers via an OpenXR extension. And we've been slowly filling all those in the Godot OpenXR Vendors plugin. And we've been slowly taking the loaders out as vendors are switching to the standard Kronos loader. So that is VR, AR history in Godot. What has been going on recently? Let's see Bastian Oli tell us about the Chronos Godot XR initiative.
The Chronos Godot Integration Project is an initiative that is providing funding to the Godot Foundation for continued XR development. It has 3 major goals to fulfill. First is to ensure all applicable core and vendor-agnostic OpenXR APIs are supported in the engine. Second is to implement new OpenXR APIs that are close to ratification and allows the OpenXR working group to evaluate these APIs and for vendors to test their runtime implementations. And third, for Godot to shine as an open source reference implementation for the OpenXR API.
Thank you, Bastian. So the last point that he had on there,
Chronos Godot Integration
not
Project
again.
is an initiative that is provided.
Okay. The last point that he had on there about Godot being a reference implementation of OpenXR, we've actually started seeing this happen in real life. A couple of months ago, someone came to one of the Godot XR team meetings. We have every 2 weeks a XR team meeting, and they were talking about how they were trying to figure out how to implement a particular part of OpenXR and couldn't figure it out. The specification was too vague, so they looked at the Godot source code. It was the best documentation they could find. So aside from the Chronos initiative, there's also very recently started a partnership between W4 Games and Meta, starting at the beginning of 2024, with the goal of improving XR functionality, performance, usability in Godot in general, so for all devices, not just Meta's devices. This mostly affects OpenXR, but not only. Some of this has benefited WebXR and just general improvements in Godot's renderer and Android support. We are adding support for meta-specific OpenXR extensions into the Godot OpenXR vendors plugin so that you're able to take advantage of all of the special meta features that users of Unity and Unreal are already able to take advantage of. And integrating with the Meta Platform SDK and other meta tools. For example, the Meta XR Simulator, which is a tool that allows you to run like a sort of fake headset on your computer. You get to see what the headset would see and use your keyboard and mouse to move it around and press buttons so you don't have to constantly put on and take off the VR headset while you're doing development. As well as creating high-quality documentation and samples. We've also started doing Godot XR Jams with the goal of promoting XR development in Godot. The first one was in November. The theme was Vapor, and we had 17 submissions. The second was just in July. Theme was relaxation. We had 26 submissions, so it's growing in general. I hope it keeps growing. Please come participate in the next one, which we're trying to do them roughly every 6 months. We think the next one will probably be around January, early February 2025. And in that second jam, a video was made of the top 5 submissions and was shared on Stay at Home Dev's channel. So come join the jam. Maybe you'll become YouTube famous. And
right. Here you go. So one more thing that we work on this year, and like I mentioned earlier, released a couple weeks ago, is the Godot editor meta quest, or how we've been calling it, the Godot XR editor. So this we built onto the Godot Android editor that we released last year, given that the quest also run Android. But at the core of the pod is the fact that the Godot editor itself is built on Godot. And given that Godot can run on Quest and can run on Android, it goes without saying that the Godot editor should be also able to run on Quest. And so we've brought as much of a desktop experience to the Quest as possible. So the Godot XR editor can build 2D, 3D, and XR game directly on the Quest. You can start a project on the desktop, you can transfer that project to the Quest using Git or pushing manually, and you can continue developing that project on the Quest, with all the shortcuts that you're used to on the desktop. We have an announcement that we published 2 weeks ago, and it's available on the Meta Horizon store. So if you haven't had the chance, please take a look, download, give us feedback, let us know how well we're doing on there. And so far, it's been up to a great reception. So we have had more than 4K downloads since we released so far. 4.7 star rating with about 25-star review out of 24 total. So, and we also proud of the fact that Upload VR wrote a pretty great article about the XR editor and the impact that this has on the XR ecosystem. So just to take a step back is kind of like, why did we bring the Godot XR editor? For me personally, is why not, right? You know, as we say, Godot editor is built using Godot, and Godot run on request, so we can make that happen. But for the higher picture, we think that the XR editor impact both the XR and game industry on a couple levels. On the OpenXR ecosystem, it helped build the OpenXR ecosystem. I think modern VR, as we know it, has been around since about 2014, 2016, with the release of the Oculus CV1 and the Vive. And you know, so far we've been seeing a lot of games, but not many applications come pushing the boundary when it comes to XR. And we hope that the Godot XR editor is the first one of many that can showcase that XR is a medium onto which we can accomplish a lot of things. Godot being open source, we hope that this is a template that others can use to build similar applications either on the MetaQuest or over XR device. And to that, we welcome over OpenXR vendors to work with us in order to bring the Godot XR editor to their platform. At the second level, the XR editor would reduce development friction. Any XR developer knows a particular loop where you develop on your computer, push the build to your device, put on your device, try something, take it off, fix a bug, put it back on, you know, rinse and repeat the entire day. The Godot XR editor running entirely on request means that you just need to put the request on and you don't need to take it off. You do your project, you do your build, you do your development, you do your profiling, you launch your project, you know, inside of request, and then you can bring back the editor again in order to keep iterating on that. One of the examples that comes to mind when I think about it is web development. Web development is typically very fast because developers can iterate on what they're doing. And with the Godot XR editor, we want to bring the same thing to XR developer. The ability to iterate really fast on the project in order to make the project even better and more adapted to the XR environment. And third, we think it lowers the barrier of entry for both XR and game development. As we mentioned on the previous slide, you can build every single game and app that Godot support on request. And as of 2 weeks ago, Meta announced the Quest 3S, which started at $299. So this means that with a $299 device, a keyboard and a mouse, you're able to do game development and publish to any platform that Godot supports. And to us, we see that as a way to make game development even more accessible to people all across the world. One statistic that we have that speak to that is that the Godot Android editor, which has been downloaded more than 500,000 so far, the primary target audience in the US, but the second largest target audience is in Brazil. And we estimate that this happened because it's not as easy to get computers in Brazil, so people are using the device they have, phone and tablet, in order to do Android development. We hope that the Godot XR editor will do the same thing and usher in a new area of game development for both 2D, 3D, and XR application. So, demo time. Yes.
Here we go.
Let's see. So we, yeah, you wanna?
Do you think you can get to the microphone?
Yeah, I can do it. So with that, we'll give a quick sample of what the XR editor look and request. So I have the editor already running here, and as you can see, it looks just like it does on a regular desktop operating system. And that was purposefully done. We want, for our first iteration, to make sure that developers have an interface that they're familiar with. We have mouse that works. This is using a Bluetooth mouse, and keyboard also using a Bluetooth keyboard. And so the keyboard shortcut, mouse shortcut that you use on desktop, you can reuse the same on the Quest editor. And so I will start by showcasing what the 2D project look like on the Godot XR editor. And here I'm using Kenny Starter Kit, a first-person shooter, in order to do the showcase. Shout out to Kenny. He's sample projects are great example of how to do Godot development. So let me bring that down, and as you can see, I can zoom in and out. I can navigate through the scene using the typical, I'm clicking, right-click on the mouse, and keyboard controller in order to navigate around. I can click on an object, move it around, and then when I'm ready, I can just press play, and now the application is just running up here. All right. So that was a quick 2D sample. Well, I think the meat, sorry.
I was trying to add a thing, but my microphone's not doing anything. Oh, there we go, thank you. I just wanted to point out that this is Godot running on the headset itself. We have it connected to the computer via USB cable. That's just for casting. The application is running entirely on the headset.
Yeah. The second sample I wanted to show is building and running an immersive project on the XR editor. So here, again, we're using one of Kenny's sample, but we've modified this one to be able to run in VR. So for anybody familiar with Kenny's sample, this is a platformer one. And in this case, when I press play, let me grab the controllers. I have the entire application running in VR straight in the headset. So I'm able to run here. And one of the things that I want to bring to your attention is I inserted a bug in the code, which means that I can pretty much jump for infinity. So it's flying forever, all right? Let's fix that. So here, I'm going to bring the editor while the immersive game is running in real time. Let's see. I'm going to jump into the script. Here you go. So fine. I'm going to add a fix here. Let's see. Oopsie. All right. That should do the trick. And with that, I don't even need to relaunch the project. I just need to switch focus back to the running game. And yeah, it's been fixed. So I can update the script using Godot how to reload. I can also modify the layout. Right, I can select one element in the scene and then move it here, and you'll see it reflect in the game in real time. So what we think here is beneficial for XR developer is that you can have an entire immersive game running and edit it at the same time. So you can visualize, in 3D what it looks like, the way it feels. You can fix bugs, and all while having the Godot XR editor running here at the same time. And when you're done, you just close this, and then you're back. Okay, so that was the demo for the XR scene. So what do we have next?
The scene understanding, you can start loading and I'll explain it a little bit.
Cool.
All right. So next we're going to show a demo of Meta's scene understanding and spatial anchors in Godot. This is one of the more exciting features that we've added recently. The MetaQuest headsets can go into a mode where they capture the environment, figure out where the floors, the walls are, the ceiling, the doors, the windows, your furniture. You can even make like a whole mesh of the room that it can give to you to use for collision or whatever you like. Scene discovery, that's the part that discovers the room. And then spatial anchors allow you to place virtual objects into your environment and have them stay in the right place relative to the real world. This is supported by the Godot OpenXR vendors extension. We have some tutorials online. Ooh, that's not right. The wall isn't there. Invisible wall?
So one of the artifacts of scene discovery, so I did a mapping of the place earlier today, and it went as far as this area, so I think everything else, it assumed that it was a wall. But in a regular setting in your home, for example, or in a user home, this would map the area like it does right now. And you can place anchor here by pressing the trigger. Do you want to speak to what the anchor?
Yeah, so this API, which I won't go into too much, we tried to design it in the most Godot-ish way possible. You basically do it by assigning which scenes you want to have Godot create for each type of thing it can discover in your environment. So if it discovers a chair, it'll throw in this Godot scene. If it discovers a wall, it'll throw in this other Godot scene. Here we just have it doing these test scenes to draw where the shapes are. And similar for the spatial anchors. So it should be a very comfortable way to work for Godot developers. Should we do pass-through?
Yeah.
All right. The next demo we're going to show you is of pass-through. So pass-through is basically doing AR, augmented reality, but rather than having a transparent optic that you see through, the camera captures the room and then blends it with virtual objects, which was basically what you're seeing there before. Godot has had support for pass-through for a very long time, but very recently in Godot 4.3, we unified the way the pass-through works. There is a very nice, friendly way in OpenXR to enable pass-through. You basically change a blend mode and make the background transparent. Not all vendors implement that. Some vendors, such as Meta and Pico and HTC, have their own special extensions that you have to use to enable and disable pass-through. Well, in 4.3, we unified all of that. So from the perspective of a developer, you do it the OpenXR way, and it will work for any of the special headset extensions that we support. And we also added support for some special meta extensions, which is what this demo is showing. You can do things to change the way the environment appears. For example, take the virtual lighting and apply it to your room, that sort of thing. I saw it on earlier, but there was the moving cube. You can, rather than having the background be passed through and virtual being drawn on top of it, this is kind of the reverse. You can draw the world with virtual and then cut out via a mesh some real world object that you just want to bring into the virtual world. Hand tracking? All right, the next demo we're going to show you is of hand tracking. Godot has supported OpenXR hand tracking for a long, long time. However, it was supported in a sort of SDK-specific way. To do hand tracking with OpenXR, you'd have to use an OpenXR hand node. And theoretically, if we were to add support to WebXR for hand tracking, you would have a WebXR hand node. For the Apple Vision Pro, you'd have an Apple Vision Pro hand node, which would start to get out of hand. Pun, I guess, intended. So we've unified all of that. So there's now just a single hand tracking node. It's the XR hand modifier 3D node. And we added support for hand tracking to WebXR. So now you just have this one node that will work with both OpenXR, WebXR. Nobody has done Apple Vision Pro support yet. Patch is welcome. And here, Fredia is showing some meta-specific vendor extensions to OpenXR. They give us access to a mesh of the player's hands. I think it's actually sized to the player's hands, so small-handed people have smaller meshes. Some capsules that you can use for collision, and some very simple gesture detection. So those bars are showing how close his thumb and which of those fingers are together. So certainly there are games with much more advanced gesture detection, but if you want to do something really simple, there is support for that built into the Godot OpenXR vendors extension. Composition layers.
Okay.
Do you think we should skip it?
Let's go ahead.
All right. The next demo, we're going to show OpenXR composition layers. These are essentially like flat panels floating in VR. They can be, well, they can be flat or they can be kind of curved, which you can render 2D content from a Godot sub-viewport. So this is something you can already do in just plain Godot in 3D. You can have a sub-viewport and render that onto a viewport texture on a mesh. However, it will appear kind of blurry and distorted In VR, the reason it's sort of technical, it has to do with the way that the headset is undistorting the picture for the lenses, which then re-distort the picture. Anyway, text and UIs appear kind of blurry, difficult to read. Using OpenXR composition layers, they come through much clearer, much easier to read. It's impossible to see when you're not in the headset. But if you're in the headset, it is like a night and day difference. Composition layers are a standard OpenXR feature. So we added this as part of the W4 Meta project, but it's available on any VR headset that supports OpenXR. And then in this demo, we're also showing some meta-specific extensions that can add additional sharpening, super sampling, which can make the pictures look even more detailed, even more sharp. And then over here with the Godot icons, that's showing some advanced blending. That the first Godot icon is actually showing secure content. The other one's showing some advanced blending settings that are available on the Meta headsets.
And to David's point about this being hard to see when you're on a headset, you notice that all of this is running in the XR editor. So every one of those samples is available in the asset library for developer to try it out. And we intend to continue on this pattern. Every time we release a new set of feature, we'll provide a sample in the asset library so that developer can download any of the headset and try it right there. Because one of the things about XR is it's really hard to conceive unless you try it yourself. So we want to make sure that whenever we bring a new feature, we make it easy for developer to try it out and see the difference and the improvement that it brings to their development workflow.
Should we try to do body tracking?
Yeah, I have.
Or we could jump to the XR tools, and that's probably more interesting. We're doing really good on time, though.
Cool. I have the APK installed, so let's go for it.
Go for XR tools or body tracking?
Body tracking.
All right. Yeah. So the next demo we're going to show you is meant to show off body tracking and face tracking. Because we're using a Quest 3, it does not actually support face tracking. If we brought a Quest Pro, you'd be able to see the avatar's face animate to match Fredia's facial expressions. But we added body and face tracking support in Godot 4.3. I say we, it was actually Malcolm Nixon, another wonderful XR team contributor. And we added it in a similar way that we unified hand tracking. We didn't previously have support for body tracking or face tracking, so we didn't have to remove anything, but the exact same architecture we used for hand tracking is used here. So you would have one set of nodes regardless of whatever AR or VR SDK you would use, and it would work across all of those SDKs. So this is using some vendor extensions from the Meta Quest that do body tracking through the cameras on the device. Basically what it can see of your upper body, your hands, your arms, your elbows. All right, the live demo didn't explode.
We can close this, right? We're done with this, right?
Well, yeah, done with this one. We'll go back to the slides.
Okay, let's just minimize, just in case.
Okay. All right, we have one more demo to show, but we are not showing it live. It's a demo that Bastiano Lee did. Him and Malcolm Nixon are the maintainers of Godot XR Tools, which is a collection of scenes and scripts for implementing common VR and AR functionality, including things like locomotion, teleport, smooth motion, snap turning, world grab, jog in place, climbing, gliding, all those things. It's built in a very componentized way. So if you want to add, for example, teleport to your game, there's a scene that you basically just instantiate underneath whichever controller you want to control teleport, and now your game has teleport locomotion. It includes animated hand models, an interaction system, so you can grab, throw, push buttons, move levers, all of this stuff in an easy-to-use componentized way, as well as a system for doing 2D and 3D for UIs and a virtual keyboard. It does not yet use composition layers. It's doing it the old way with viewport textures, but I imagine eventually that support will be added. But I will give it to Bastian. How to make this big again?
Godot XR Tools is Godot's primary toolkit for building XR applications. It contains a number of implementations of popular XR mechanics. It is designed so you can pick and choose which parts you want to use. You can also use it as an example to build your own implementation. Installing XR Tools into your project is as easy as downloading it from the asset library. Just search for XR Tools and then download it. Alternatively, you can find a template project that sets up a basic XR game with a bunch of functionality pre-configured.
In the interest of not running out of time, we're going to
For
speed
today's
Bastian up a
demo,
little bit
we are
here.
going to use the XR Tools demo project. The demo application has a scenes folder that contains subfolders for each of the demos included in this project. In each of these folders, you will find a level scene that contains that specific implementation. Let's run the project and we'll look at a few of these demos. When our demo starts, we get a splash screen to begin with, and this gives XR Tools the opportunity to measure my seating height. Pressing a trigger, the actual demo starts. And what you notice is that even though I'm sitting in a chair, I am at normal height standing in front of this little UI. I can use my controller with my joystick to move around. I can turn, and by default we have snap turning turned on. I can move forwards and backwards and move around that way. With the little pedestal up here, I can actually configure that a little bit. So for instance, I can turn off the snap turning, and now I can move fluid left and right. Around me in this starting scene are lots of little teleporters that let me go to any of the demos that are included in this project. The rest of this demo I will be doing standing up. Already seen how we can move around with our joystick. The other movement mechanic is to use a teleporter, and for that we're going to go to the teleport movement demo. Note that I can still use my joystick to turn around, but in this demo, I can no longer move forward or backwards. I need to use my other controller and press the trigger in order to teleport to a new location.
So that we don't run out of time, we're going to skip around a little bit. We'll maybe try to jump to where he's doing some of the interactions.
Move to the table over here, I can grab these cubes, and you can see that they will just float in the air depending on where they were relative to my hand when I pick them up. On my other table is an example where I can pick up these little table cups, and you can see that they are properly positioned on the hand so that I can drink. I can also put them back, and you'll see that they snap into place. You put them back on there, and they snap into place. And last but not least, I can pick up these hammers. And you can again see that they are picked up on a specific location, and I can throw them. I can also point to an object to pick it up, and it will just teleport to my hand, and I've got it. And again, I can throw it. XR Tools also has the ability to interact with certain objects.
We'll jump around a little bit more, but all of that stuff that he's showing is very easy to configure. You attach or make child nodes to your object that show where it should be grabbed. There's special resources that show how the hand gestures should look when you grab something. There's settings to say whether you want distance grab or you actually have to touch it with your hand. It's all very easy to use and configurable. Well, here, I guess the levers are pretty interesting. For when PVKK comes out for VR, where's Rafa?
I have a joystick that can only go in one direction, or used as a slider. And here I have some buttons that I can actually press with my finger. XR Tools also comes with an audio system that reacts to what we're doing in VR.
Maybe look at some of the locomotion, some of the more interesting ones. I think this is the gliding demo. Do you think that'll make people sick? I guess close your eyes if you start to feel uncomfortable. Let's get. I don't know if anyone who plays VR knows the game Population 1, where you hold your arms out to glide and you can climb anything. This demo basically shows doing those same functionalities in XR Tools.
I can just jump off, and I can glide by stretching my hands out. And I can steer like so. Whee! Boom. There's also this cool mechanic where we get lifted up in the air and glide a bit further. Whee! Boom. And now to get back up, I can climb this wall. Just by placing my hands on the wall and pressing the grab button. I also wanted to show this ladder. Here you can see that I'm actually grabbing the rungs of the ladder. This is a nice demo as well, where we can grab any point.
See what else we can grab in here. Sorry, we really want to do questions, so we're rushing through this part a little bit. Grapple. Oh, we'll show the UI stuff. The most exciting thing ever, UI.
With UIs. Here we can see a 2D scene that we can interact with using these pointers. So I can select the different lines. And I can use this virtual keyboard to say hello to everybody. There are other demos that you can try out in our Godot XR demo project, and I recommend that if you want to create some XR games in Godot, to just download the demo and try out all these different projects, and just look at the source code of how they all work. That concludes this demo for today. Godot XR Tools is Godot's primary...
All right, we just have some closing notes about some other things that have improved recently in Godot's XR support. For example, improved WebXR support. So WebXR allows web pages to provide AR or VR experiences. Basically, you load it up in a browser, either on your desktop where you have a headset connected to it, or right in the browser running on the headset, like on the Meta Quest or the Pico. And you press some kind of enter VR or enter AR button, and then the app takes over the whole immersive environment. It is very nice for game jams. In the same way that an HTML5 export is good for flat screen games, I would say like 50% of the entries in the XR Jam made WebXR exports, and those are fantastic, just not having to install stuff. Godot has supported WebXR since 2021. It was released in Godot 3.3, and I did a presentation on it at GodotCon 2021. Here's the link. You can watch it. More recently, we added hand tracking support, taking advantage of that unified hand tracking support. I tried to make a PR that added WebXR hand, and yeah, no one liked that. Support for MSAA. Bastian did most of the work on the compatibility render, adding MSAA support. I did the web parts, and then for WebXR, you even need an additional extension in order to get it, but looks fantastic in VR. And we've been continuing to improve AR support in WebXR. Some additional platform support. We now have support for the Pico 4, the HTC Focus 3, and the XR Elite. HTC sent us, the members of the XR team, XR Elite devices. Hint to other vendors, sending us devices means we will probably improve support for them. I mean, definitely pay the foundation and or W4 to do a project or something, but just having the devices and having it be part of our testing regimen has led to better support for this device. And yeah, support for the Magic Leap 2 and this Logitech MX Ink. It's like a stylus that's touch sensitive. I just got one last week. I haven't had a chance to do too much with it, but what I really want is just have every wall in my house be a whiteboard. I think that'd be really cool. But there was a Godot contributor who was working on a game that used it and had early access to it and was able to add support for it to Godot several weeks before it was released. So here are a bunch of helpful links to the Godot XR documentation, the vendor's repo, XR tools, and the link to get the Godot editor for MetaQuest from the store. Thank you. one more bonus demo.
Well, let's open it up for questions.
Oh, OK. While Fredia is getting set up, we can take some questions.
I just wanted to ask, is the Godot XR editor also available for other headsets or just for the Quest for now?
So right now it's just for the Quest. That's more due to support that the other headsets have for features that we need. Actually, like Godot plushie. Everyone wants a Godot plushie. Who wants a Godot plushie? You gonna try it? Oh, he's gonna. There he goes. No, not quite. He just wants to stay with us, because we're the best. So we got, or Fredia, I should say, got the XR editor working decently, and all of the issues that we were having with it, the early bugs, were actually bugs in Meta's platform, and we were able to get them to make fixes and got it working great. If there are any other vendors who would like this to work on their headset, come let us know, talk to the Godot Foundation or W4, and yeah, it would be amazing to have it running on all OpenXR supporting headsets.
Hi, great presentation, thank you. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to the handset, mobile platforms, because this talk was very focused on headsets, right? But AR, XR in general, I guess AR also works on Android, iPhones, iOS. And Fredia, as you said, is maintaining Android as well, right? So wondering if you have plans in that direction.
Yeah, historically, Godot's support for AR has lagged a little bit behind its support for VR. But in Godot 3, we did have support for AR Core and AR Kit, so those are the AR SDKs used on Android and iOS devices. In Godot 4, we lost that, but very, very recently, some patches were merged. It'll be part of Godot 4.4. We will have AR Core support again on Android, and I think we're very close to having support on iOS. It's like a very minor bug that needs to be fixed. We just need someone who is interested to come in and help fix it.
All right, with that, we'll say bye to the Godot plushie.
Bye, Godot plushie. There he goes. I think we still have some time.
Yeah, hi, here at the end. I have a question about the second demo you've made, the 3D one with the Kenny assets. You said it was a 3D game, but does it have like an XR intro and an XR camera in it, or not? Because, yeah, go on, sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand. You said, does it have an XR camera?
Yeah, because when you launched the game, it appeared in 3D around the VR headset like it was a standard VR game. But is it really a VR game, or is it made to be a 3D standard game playing on a 2D flat screen?
So Fredia showed 2 demos, or do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I'm guessing you're talking about the 3D platformer one. So the version in the asset store right now is a regular flat game. So it's a 3D, but it's a flat game. And so I have a GitHub branch that's taking that version and adapting for VR. And one of the goals of that, it's not complete yet. Once it will be complete, it will be also in the asset library. But one of the goals is to showcase how easy it is to go from regular 3D to VR. So we want to encourage Godot developer to take a look at XR. Like, if you're building a 3D game, take a look at what XR provide and see if your game could adapt to that. Again, PVKK.
Okay, thanks.
Would it be possible to use this editor in the future on PC, or is it something missing that's only on mobile headsets?
Yeah, it would be theoretically possible to work on PC. There are actually some things missing. The ability to easily have multiple processes participate in the same XR environment. On Android, that's something that's built into the system, so we can take advantage of that. It is not something that is in OpenXR on desktop devices yet, I hope. But if that functionality is ever added, we can. Otherwise, we'd have to do something very platform specific. Like I think in Steam VR, there's a way to have multiple Steam VR apps work in the same environment, but we prefer the open source way. There's a hand over here. Oh, I guess one over there as well.
Is it possible to render 3D content while in editor mode when using the XR editor, or only after running a game?
So in the XR editor, in the second platform demo that Fredia showed, he was running the game, just pressed the button to bring up the 2D panels, whatever 2D multitasking panels you have open, and was able to use the XR editor in real time, edit it, and it changed the running game. Is that what you're asking about?
I was thinking about the other way around. So, for example, as an editor plugin to create a 3D object.
Oh, so like you have the editor open on your desktop, and you want to like launch VR on your headset to like edit the scene?
For example, yeah.
So we don't have that yet, but we have one member of a community that's prototyping on that. Oh, you? Oh, awesome.
Hey.
Do you want to maybe speak to that?
We don't want to put you on the spot if you don't want to.
Okay, okay. All right, sorry. But yeah.
There was a hand over here earlier?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Two at once.
Yeah. But just to wrap up, this is the beauty of a Godot community. Like, open source, so we got a bunch of people that can do awesome things that we can all pull together in order to make the experience even better for everybody.
Any other final questions? Ooh, two more? I think we have time, actually.
Thanks for the talk. I had a question about editing directly in VR in Godot. Because I've seen some demos in other engines like Unreal Engine, and what I found really cool is the idea that you can, as in Matrix, like you see an object, you just enter it and you modify it. And right now it seems to be a two-step process. Like, okay, I see this, and just like we do normally in Godot, like okay, I try to find the equivalent script in code and modify it. And currently, I don't think we can do this natively in Godot. There used to be a debugging add-on where you could click on an object directly in the running scene to edit it, but it is not maintained. So I think it would be nice to have a combination of keeping working on this debugging add-on, but for the latest version of Godot, and also creating a 3D version for the VR editing, so we can do both at once. Mm-hmm. So did you start actually seeing some development or providing some development on this?
Yeah, so two things. For Godot 4.4, Yeldham, I think sponsored by W4, is working on bringing that debugging feature you're talking about into Godot itself. So it'll hopefully be something that we have just in general in Godot 4.4. And the wonderful human being seated over here was working on basically that functionality, but specific to VR. So hopefully we will have both. One up here in the front.
You showed the demo with the face tracking that's exclusive to the Quest Pro. Will the other features of the Quest Pro, like the eye tracking, supported as well?
Yes, eye tracking, OpenXR eye tracking support is actually in Godot itself and has been for a while. Yeah. 4.1 or 4.2, something like that. And if any other headsets add eye tracking or face tracking, and then we added support in Godot, it would work seamlessly across all of those devices using the same Godot setup, the same Godot code.
Mm-hmm. Hi, thanks for the talk. You showed this hole punch technique where you had this virtual object showing the real world. Would this be possible in a way of kind of like reverse AR, where I have some real-world object that is shown in VR. For instance, I'm in a virtual world in VR, and I have my actual mouse and keyboard showing, for instance, because that's always the complicated part when I need to type some stuff, and I can't find the keyboard. Something like that, where it's like just fixed. So okay, this is the keyboard, and it's always shown like the real object in the virtual world.
You have a very sharp eye noticing the hole punching. We were debating whether to talk about that or if it was too technical. But yes, you can do that kind of hole punching to bring a real-world object into VR. And also, specifically on the MetaQuest, if you have one of the tracked keyboards, when you're using the XR editor, it will just automatically show your hands in pass-through when your hands are over that keyboard, which is pretty cool.
Was there a comment here? I think a question.
It's all keyboards now? Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think as of V71, I believe, right? Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
I would like to ask if in the Quest version of the editor, can you also have multiple windows, like for the code in one side and the editor on the other?
Not yet. That's something that's theoretically possible on Android, because ideally, if we get it working, I would like to get it working on Android also. That's something that's possible. That's something we haven't deemed a priority for now yet, since we want to focus on the experience first. But yeah, that's something that will come eventually. Also, the Quest didn't really get multiple window until very recently. So at first, that wasn't really a concern. As Request starts supporting more and more window, yeah, we think that might become more of a need. But yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all so much.